Hello and welcome to the Darkest Zone. Thank you for joining me. We're going to be talking about the new patch notes for Ars Notoria. They were released today around 6:34 p.m. It's the 0.1b build, and I've already gone through this list. I'm going to go over it quickly with you. I'm not going to be doing any game footage in this video. I am going to do a video later today of game footage from this list of changes they've made, these patch notes we're going to go over. Let's do it right now. So they fixed an issue where character could be reset to the default stats when loading a save game. They removed the character loading code, and now it loads everything from character parameters, which are persistent objects and more reliable than how they were doing it before. So they changed the way the system now saves or holds on to the data in which you've changed within your character. Like if you were to change your endurance or your strength, or even if you allocated a skill point to a weapon. My testing videos that showed that after they were dying or loading out of the game and loading back in, all my stats were back to base stats like I was a brand new character, but I did not have the ability to reallocate the points the system thought I had, but they weren't registering it. It's been resolved. So there's one off the Tarkus list that I was hoping to see get fixed. And honestly, this list checks a lot of the things off that I was having issues with my testing experience. Fixed an issue when the character could spawn out of the world bounds. And that's spawning characters through a video game is not easy, because there is a balancing thing when it comes to where do you actually, if someone dies, where do you actually place them? Or if they log out of the game and log back in, do they go back to the exact location they were at, or is there a safety spot that you stick them in so that they don't get mobbed as soon as you come into the game? PvE games, when it comes to spawning, is a balancing issue, especially with the fact that if you've got a respawn command, which they added to this game, right now their core respawn is bringing you back to the beginning of where you started the game. Well, in future respawn unstuck commands, you're going to have to rethink where you send somebody, because if they're 4 days into the game and they're in a different biome and their house is in a different area and they get stuck and they use the unstuck command and they're forced to go all the way back to the beginning of the game to run back, it doesn't make sense. And normally when you do an unstuck command, you don't bring your horse with you. So I don't know how that gets, because that's moving around a map can get kind of silly, if you're spending days just running around a terrain to get to point A to point B. That's why you have mounts in the game, and they help you with that. But how the respawn mechanic works, does a horse go with you when you get respawned, so it doesn't make the journey coming back? Or in the future, can I bind myself to an altar or to a bed, where if I do an unstuck command or I do a respawn command, I get sent to those objects, so at least I know where I'm going? I mean, spawning or respawning in the game, people might think that's simple, but it's not. It can get kind of complicated in the balancing. In this situation, their random respawning event was sending people outside the playable game zone. Easy fix. I mean, it's a check. That's great that they fixed it. Added an additional check for the spawn location when loading the game. If it's invalid, it will reset you by default. This change will fix broken save games that had incorrect spawn locations. So again, a spawning fix. Fix an issue with the building menu or map could be open during the create character customization menu. Added a 1610 aspect ratio support for your monitor. Okay, remove character movement from all unarmed attack animations. Now they all are in place. All right, so this goes back to something I had reported to them. Did I read that clean? Remove character movement from all unarmed attacked animations. Yeah, I guess I did read it the way they wrote it. So what they did here was, when you were unarmed, the system would force you to move forward. You would punch, you'd force move forward. It wasn't anything that you had control over. And I had recommended don't do that. You know, if your other animations when it comes to various weapons don't force you to move forward, then you shouldn't have one combat experience in the game that forces you to move forward, especially if somebody wants to play a monk. That'd drive someone mad if they every time they punched, they'd be forced to walk through whatever it is they're dealing with. That just wasn't clean, and they fixed it. Check. Physical objects, this one's a good one. Physical objects and dead enemies no longer push away from the character when you step on them. This should make picking up loot easier. Yeah, tumbleweed effect, tumbleweed. I mean, come on. There was in my video, I was kicking that rat around, and then there was that one time I killed the rat. Hadn't touched it, but it was on a hill, and it kept on going. I mean, it was comical. Kept on going. And it was at the bottom of this bloody mountain. And it was like, I'm thinking to myself, do I want to even spend my time walking down there to get my rat meat or pelt? Because the experience of walking down there and looting the thing would take more time than when it did to kill the thing. And it was like, oh God, for the love of everything that might be holy, why is this mechanic in the game? Why is it that everything has no gravity on it? You know, in my other video, I said gravity effect. It was a gravity effect issue where it was anti-gravity, where things were just fumbling around, tumbleweed. So they fixed that. Thank the bloody devs for doing that. Because, or I would have even been better. I mean, if they felt that was a core thing they wanted to keep, they could have just put it in the server options to say, don't allow creatures to basically zombie walk across the map after you kill them. You know what I mean? Okay, but they got rid of it altogether. That's good. Added server options and enable or disable map scanning and resource icons. I had mentioned this in a previous video where it seemed silly that they were spoon feeding us all the node locations as you opened up the Fog of War. Hardcore players might not like that, and they would have lost some players on that kind of. It seems gimpy when you tell everybody where everything is. So they've now added it as a server option so you can just disable it and you'll be able to find those nodes on your own, and you use memory or placement of where things are in the world, like, oh, that node's next to that cliff or next to that guy's building. You just remember that, you know what I mean? You don't need to go to the mini map and see. You know, some people don't like that. I don't like it. I mean, if I would have wanted to go easy cheese mode, sure, set me up with telling me where everything is. But people are into that, so I'm not going to try to say bad things about that either. I mean, it's just my different play style is, you've seen my videos, I like to play on the hardest mode possible, and giving me the locations of all the nodes seem to be anti-hard mode. I guess I'll put it that way. So if you're into the easier play style, you want to know where these things is, you just want to play with the wife or play with your friends and just like a Farmville type of experience, that's perfectly normal because they got that mode. They got the easy, medium, and hard. So there's that allows different play styles to play whatever version they want. My play style, hard mode, don't tell me where those nodes are. Force me to remember where those are. Okay. Add notification when the game is saved using the quick save hotkey. That's good to know. Decrease the range in which wild animals become aggressive from 10 meters to 5 meters. This way it's easier to give them food and tame them, obviously. And then they reduce the amount of time it allows you to feed the animal for taming from 24 hours to 12 hours, so they have that. They added the unstuck button to the escape menu. It can be used now to respawn your character to the default location if it gets stuck or it moves out of the legal boundaries. Now, again, that comes down to the spawning balancing is later in the game when people are biomes from the start area, they're going to rage quit your ass if they have to spend 8 days walking back to their spot because the unstuck command sent them back to the first biome. So again, a balancing thing. And I think I beat that horse dead already. So let's go on. So they increased the spawning of the iron ore deposits by 300%. Iron ore is one of those things in the game that you need plenty of it to get the stuff done, the basic stuff done. And people were concerned that it was taking so long to build basic tools because the spawn nodes were just taking forever to respawn the iron. And we're in such a small map that they've given us for the testing. that was concerning. They also, as part of this, they want to make sure they check to make sure that when your world is created, that it's not a low resource world. And they've also included larger spawns of materials within dungeons, iron mines, stone quarries, and salt mines. So that's par for the course for a game like that. If you walk into a mine or you go into the earth, there's a larger amount of items or deposits in there because of the mine. And so it makes sense to do it that way. So the game world has them scattered, and then you walk up to this hole in the ground, and you go down, and all of a sudden you see a gold node, and you're like, oh, I'm in a gold mine, you know. And then you can see another one, and you see another one, and you see another one, and they're a higher concentration. But with balancing in a game like this, they usually put a lot of big beasties or baddies down there, so it's not just gravy train going through and getting all the nodes. You might have to fight your way in. You might have to do something to, might have to put torches out to cause creatures not to spawn back in. There's many games that are like that, that if you go into a mine, you clean it out, but if you have lit torches in there, they never respawn. It's just part of their game mechanic, that, and I'm not sure if that's the case with this game, but that forces you to, that allows you to take over the mine after getting rid of the beasties. All right, added cheat codes to make the testing process easier. Now, they got some codes here. I'm not going to really go over that because with me, I like to test things without any type of help in that way. I understand why people would want to be able to bump their stats up to test some of the top end stuff that needs to be tested. For me, my play test style is start from the beginning, work my way through, try to understand time management issues too, because in a game like this, balancing a game from attacking monsters or resource nodes or what people are doing in the game, it also comes down to time management and does that much time make sense. So for example, if you want to build a basic home in this game, what's the appropriate amount of time it should take you to build that, right? So for me to not use cheat codes and kind of do it myself, I get a better understanding. And this way I could tell the developer balancing wise is, look, I think, I don't know where you need to, adjust this, but, it took me 9 days to build a basic structure. And I don't know if that makes sense. So let's discuss, and then you got to discuss it from the point where you got the raw resources to where you process the resources to where you eventually built the structure, because it's all time management. I mean, that's all, how much time did you really want to spend on this? In a PvP game, it's a huge balancing thing. And to be fair, and what people can do within a certain amount of allotment, and those people that get together to work together, obviously cause a wean and wax on that too, because if one guy's out in the world doing his thing, and these 5 guys are doing the same thing, working together, this guy never has really a chance. So in a game like that, how do you balance? And so, there's a lot of questions around that, mostly in a PvP game. In a PvE game like this, I think they've done very well at addressing the major concerns that I had with the game over the last couple days. And I thought that, this would come around to these changes, because it just seemed that some of these things that we're finding in this game particularly, just needed to be adjusted or fixed to a point where it makes sense, that it kind of is par for other games. Not every game of this style is the same, but at least the game mechanics normally are the same. When you kill an animal, it shouldn't ghost walk across the screen. It shouldn't tumbleweed everywhere. I mean, I'd never seen a game that did that. I mean, there was a critter in World of Warcraft that did that, and it was always just a funny thing to kick the thing around after killing it. But it was a one type of thing, and it was really rare to do, and it was gonna fumble. It was just fumbled around after you killed it, and it was just their game code had kind of glitched the thing. But it was very comical for that one instance, but not having a whole game full of bouncing corpses just doesn't make bloody sense. All right, so I think I went over it pretty well. I'm going to be doing a game video pretty soon, and I want to thank you for joining me, and this has been the Tarkus Zone.